Hi there, Smart Drivers. Rick with Smart Drive Test talking to you tonight about getting pulled over by police for a traffic infraction, often speeding, sometimes turning contrary to a regulatory sign that you can't turn left, for example, and you turn left anyway, and the police pull you over and give you a traffic ticket. We're going to tell you what to do, what the correct procedure is, and most of the time, 8 times out of 10, you are going to get off with a warning if you're nice and polite to the police officer. This is what we're going to talk about tonight and help you to be a safer, smarter driver. Bear with me just one sec here. I'm a little too overexposed, so I'm just going to adjust that. Bear with me here. Let's turn that down a little bit and see if that works. All right, thank you for your patience. Jake is here. Hello, my friend. How are you? And elevator fan tuning in from Monticello, Indiana. Are you feeling better, my friend? My friend Mallory is tuning in from the Maritimes. They got a bit of snow there in the Maritimes, so we can help you with that. And my friend Evan is here, and Tim is here from Winnipeg. How is the weather in Winterpeg, Tim? And Z is tuning in from New York City. Is it New York City, Z, or is it New York State? Hello, everyone. Welcome here. And to Smart Drive Test, we help you to pass the driver's test, become a safer, smarter driver, or start a career as a truck or bus driver. So check all that out. And yes, Corey's here from Winnipeg as well. Corey, as a moderator, does an excellent job of getting up the videos I suggest you have a look at for more information as well. Keeps out the bad people, because once you get to a certain size, people want to spam you for whatever reason. Tim, it's going to be minus 30 later this week. Oh my, that's chilly. That's chilly, Tim. For those of you in the States, minus 30 degrees Celsius is about minus 10, minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit. It's very chilly. Jake, blizzard is coming and it's my day off. Awesome, and you're not out on the roads. Lynn is tuning in from northern New Jersey, retired 2019, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Lovely place in the wintertime if you want to get down and have a little holiday. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Elevator says that he's feeling better. It's his birthday tomorrow. Well, happy pre-birthday. Have a great day tomorrow, my friend. Lynn, 51 degrees here tomorrow. Woohoo! Awesome. That's awesome. It's way better than negative 10 degrees Fahrenheit for sure. Sean is tuning in from Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. Hello, my friend. And Aaron is here from Chilliwack. So lots of people here tonight. And you have any questions at all, ask your questions. We'll do the best we can to help you out. And Accent, Toronto, hope everything is well. I can't drive today as I got my wisdom teeth out 12 hours ago. Yes, hopefully, taking painkillers and have the cloth, the cotton balls and absorbent in there. Yes, I feel your pain. I have bad teeth. I have good eyesight, bad teeth. So I hear you in terms of driving. So getting pulled over by police, the golden rule of getting pulled over by police, first and foremost, don't deny what you did. Okay? Too many people get pulled over by police and they're like, oh, what's wrong? What's going on? And I got pulled over by police in Pennsylvania in the big truck when I was driving truck in the 1990s. And I was out in the third lane, and I knew that I shouldn't be out in the third lane. And police officer pulled me over, comes up to the window, and I'm kind of looking down at him because I was in a cab over. Cab over is the cab that sits over the engine, so you're sitting a little bit higher than you are in a conventional semi-truck. And I looked down at the officer and I said, is there a problem, officer? Which was a mistake, because the officer screamed back at me and he's like, license and registration now! And then I got license and registration very quickly for the officer. And I was almost certain that I was going to get a ticket after that little initial exchange, but went back to the car, sat there for about 20 minutes looking up my information, and let me off with a warning, and even pulled out on the interstate to stop traffic and allowed me to get back out on the interstate. So yes, one of those stories of getting pulled over by police. Colton, unarmed. Hi Rick, from Brampton, just dropped in to say hi. Hello, my friend. Hello. Colton, license, registration, and proof of insurance in driver's hand. Everyone else is holding ID if they have it. And unless it's really cold, stick your hand out the window so they can tell you're you. Yes, Colton, actually, I'm going to go against that advice. I wouldn't reach for anything in the vehicle when you first get pulled over. Wait till the officer comes up to the window and then answer the officer's questions. And then if the officer asks you for license and registration, say, listen, the license and registration is in the glove box. I'm going to reach for it in the glove box. That's what you need to do. You need to tell the officer exactly what you're doing. And there's going to be people in the United States, and I'm going to talk about this. If you have a firearm in the vehicle, if you have a weapon, a gun or a rifle or a shotgun, you need to tell the officer, I have a rifle in the vehicle. It's in the trunk. And I have my permit. It's in the glove box. Would you like me to get the permit? All right. So you need to have clear communication about what you're doing and those types of things to keep yourself safe when you're pulled over by police. Rhonda, hello. I passed my driving test on first attempt. Thank you so much. Your videos helped me a lot. That is terrific news, Rhonda. Thank you so much for tuning in and letting us know that you were successful on passing your driver's test first time. What did you do to go and celebrate, my friend? Mallory, as long as you're nice to the police officer, he or she will be nice to you. Absolutely. And Amazon, I'm not feeling better either. Just joined the live stream because he is covering a very important topic. Awesome. That's great. Glad you could make it in. Amazon, terrific news. Wix, don't put your hands out unless they say to. Put your hands on the wheel. You never know. They could be thinking you're pointing something at them or throwing something out. Exactly what Wix said. Put your hands on the steering wheel, and if it's at night, turn the interior light on in the vehicle. That way they can see you, they can see what you're doing, okay? And make sure you don't reach for anything until you communicate with the officer that that is, in fact, what you're going to be doing. Jimmy Network, thanks for making me a better driver. You are most welcome, my friend. So happy to hear we can help out. Awesome. I learned so much. Awesome. Okay, so let's get over to the presentation here, and we'll get through that, and then we'll come back and we'll spend the remainder of the hour answering any questions you have about passing a driver's test, becoming a safer, smarter driver, or starting your career as a truck or bus driver. So, being pulled over by police, that's what we're talking about tonight, oftentimes for a traffic infraction, and also know that if you are involved in organized crime or doing something illegal, most of the time police catch you because you do something goofy when you're driving. For example, you have a taillight out and the police officer pulls you out and they find out that there's something else going on in the vehicle, and this is often the reason that criminals get caught, is because they don't pay attention to the details. But that's just an aside. I'm not encouraging you in any way to participate in illegal activity. We just need to make smarter criminals. Those of you who are new to Smart Drive Test, my name is Rick August. I was a truck driver in the 1990s, hauling freight between Canada and the United States. Became a licensed commercial driving instructor in 1997. Been doing that most of my life. I am very interested with the question of what happens to people when you put them in a vehicle and how they act. That's my passion. So passionate about it, in fact, that I went to the University of Melbourne and earned my degree in legal history, looking at how to influence driver behaviors via the law and how those laws change to try and control traffic as more and more vehicles came onto our roadways. While I was going to university, I drove buses for Greyhound and one of the regional bus lines, so I have experience driving coaches as well as trucks, semi-trucks, air brakes, those types of things. Most of my driving instruction career was with teaching semi-trucks, CDL drivers, those types of things. 2015, I started the Smart Drive Test online business and the YouTube channel, and it has been wildly more successful than I could have ever imagined. Good stuff to look at. There is a podcast over at the Smart Drive Test website. You can find all these links down in the description. Please pull you over. You can listen to the podcast. And as well, we're going to talk about this a little bit more tonight because it's an ongoing topic of people and their opinions about merging onto an interstate, a freeway, and how to keep yourself safe, and people's very hard and fast rules about what they should do if they're on the interstate. And again, we come back to the saying, you can be right or you can be dead right. And we're just going to talk a little bit more about that yet again and try and help people merging onto the highways, onto the freeways, and those people that are already on there and figuring out where the transitions are, where the merge lanes are, where the off ramps are, and to help them to keep them safe. And as again, I said, all those things are down in the description, all those links. So in the United States, levels of police, you have city police, you have sheriff's departments, you have state troopers who are hired by the state. You have Capitol Police in Washington, D.C. For those of you who don't know, Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, is where the federal capital is located, so that no one state can claim the federal capital. They have their own police force, the Capitol Police, and then there are federal police, the FBI, which are involved in traffic as well to some degree, not a great deal, but there are federal police as well, the FBI, the CIA, and whatnot. Now, they don't get involved in traffic a whole lot, but they are there. Okay, origins of law, and this is what police officers are doing, is that they are enforcing traffic laws, and traffic laws are part of the order maintenance laws. Pedestrians stay on the sidewalks, cyclists ride in bike lanes, those types of things. This is part and parcel of order maintenance. So, laws are put forward in Congress, they're debated, they're passed in Congress, they move on to the Senate looks at the bill, they debate it, they pass the law, and then the final step for a law to actually go into effect is that it receives presidential effect. Oftentimes, when it gets presidential assent, it's usually a rubber stamp, but it could also be vetoed, but that usually doesn't happen as laws pass through Congress and Senate in the United States of America. And it is these that are what police officers are enforcing when they pull you over for speeding, for action contrary to a regulatory sign, and those types of things. Now, traffic is under the state laws. It's the same sort of process, except as the state law goes, it will be approved by the governor. That will be the final step. Okay, power versus authority. Now, the other piece of information that I'm going to give you about getting pulled over by the police is do not, and I will repeat this, do not question their authority to pull you over. Because I can guarantee you that you will receive a ticket if you start questioning the police officer's authority to pull you over. Okay, power versus authority. What is power? And too many conspiracy theorists and other people will level charges that the police are simply abusing their power when they're pulling you over, when in fact they're not, because their authority is very much steeped in law and society and other rules and regulations. Authority, on the other hand, is based in the Constitution, and it is necessary for public safety and public order. And this is what the policing of traffic is about. And we can talk about this further after the presentation. There are two schools of thinking on police. They claim that what is put forward is that they are the thin blue line between society and corruption and crime. They are what keep you safe. They are the shock absorbers between society and the criminal element. Police, for the most part, deal with the not so nice element of society. Particularly in the United States, the public opinions of policing is that, they are very much an instrument of the state, and they are imposing the state's will to brainwash you and to control you. And this is very much the way it is in Australia as well, and other places in the world. Very different opinions of policing in Europe and in the UK. Here in Canada, we have the most recognized police force in the world, which is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. However, they have fallen from their historical roots and are not so much recognized as they once were. They were very much once recognized. So policing traffic violations are order maintenance work, which is basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to uphold maintenance within, or order within society. Cars drive on the roadway, pedestrians walk along the sidewalks. You make right turns in a certain way. You give way to other traffic. All of the giveaway rules and whatnot. So this is what police do. And police cultures, for the most part, tend to be conservative. And the reason that they're conservative is because most police members hang around with other police members. They don't tend to socialize within society due to the culture of policing. They have a dangerous job. There's absolutely no doubt about what police do is a dangerous job. Cameras, widespread use of cell phones, dash cams, public security cameras, all of this has created accountability on the police, because there is little doubt throughout history that there has been abuse of police powers that cannot be denied in the historical canon, and the cameras have provided accountability. Okay? Now, if they do pull you over, there is profiling that goes on as soon as the police officer pulls you over. If the police officer pulls you over in the red light district of the city in which you live, in Chicago, for example, that is going to look bad for you. So now they're profiling you. However, if they pull up to your car and you were driving a brand new Jeep SUV and you're dressed in nice clothes with a suit and tie, that is different profiling. They're going to think something differently. However, if there's two young males in the car and they're driving a Cadillac and they're in the red light district, they're going to think something differently. They're going to think that, potentially you could be a criminal. So think about that when you get pulled over, and where you are, what you're doing, and who is in the vehicle with you. Okay, what kind of car are you driving? And what state are you in when you get pulled over? Are you inebriated? Are you slurring your words? Are you weaving on the roadways? And those types of things. So all of this is going to be part of the profiling of the police officer. It's simply just a first opinion of you, and then it's going to depend on what happens after that and how you answer the officer's questions. Okay, procedure when you get pulled over. Okay, pull over is it's as soon as it's safe to do so. Okay, if there's no shoulder and you can't pull over, then drive to the next exit and pull off at the exit. Okay, do not pull in on a private property. This tends to be shunned upon. For example, going into a gas station or a mall parking lot or those types of things, it's not really, owners don't really like that sort of thing. If you can just pull off onto a minor road, that's going to be better for you. Okay, and if you do have to pull off the interstate or the state road or the highway, pull off as far as you can. Okay, do not get out of the vehicle. Do not reach for anything in the vehicle. Do not reach for your license registration. Wait for the officer to approach your vehicle and answer the officer's questions. Usually they're going to be closed questions, which is going to simply be a yes/no answer. Do not deny what you did. Okay? Do not say, "Oh, I wasn't speeding," because the officer pulled you over for speeding. That is not going to go well for you. Okay? Answer. Do not question the officer's authority to pull you over. Don't start saying, "Oh, you don't have the authority under the Constitution to pull me over," blah, 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 yada, 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 and being adversarial with the police officer. That is not going to go well for you. Okay? Simply answer the questions. Don't deny what you did. You don't have to admit what you did either. You don't have to say, "Oh, I wasn't speeding," or "I was speeding. Oh my God, I was just going a little bit over the speed limit." Okay, you don't have to say that either. Just answer the officer's questions. If you have weapons in the vehicle, if you have firearms, you have a knife, anything like that, tell the officer where it is. Tell them that you have a permit for it and that where it is located. Ask them if you want you to get it for them. Okay? And follow the officer's instructions, and what goes around comes around. So if you're nice to the officer, I can guarantee you 8 times out of 10 you're going to get off with a warning. If you are belligerent with the officer is going to write you a ticket. Now, if the officer does write you a ticket, what recourse do you have if you believe that you're not guilty of the offense? Okay? I'll talk about that in the next slide. Move over laws. Every state has a move over law. Slow down to 40 miles an hour if you can do safely. Move over to the left lane. And this is a must for those of you preparing for a driver's test. You must pull over for police who have vehicles stopped on the side of the road. Okay, so back to what I kind of interrupted myself there. My apologies. Recourse and your rights. If you do get a speeding ticket, you may have to take a defensive driving course, especially if you're in the state of California. Other states in the United States, maybe smart drivers here can give me a list of other states where you have to take defensive driving courses. If you get the ticket, you can plead guilty and pay the fine, or you can go to traffic court and you can fight it. And I will tell you about my experience of going to traffic court, and sometimes it's just easier to pay the fine. You do have a few options in terms of what you can do in terms of fighting the ticket, but sometimes it's just easier to fight or just pay the ticket and carry on with your life. All right, so good luck on your driver's test, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. So Elevator Fan asked me what belligerent means. Belligerent means being angry, being conflictual, raising your voice, yelling, and challenging the police officer's right to pull you over and those types of things. That's what belligerent means. Mallory, just be truthful and honest with the police and you'll be fine. Absolutely. Z said, the police stopped me. I was hanging a chain on my mirror. Question, Rick, I'm not allowed to hang a chain in front of the front mirror. It's not usually recommended, Z, because it's distracting, because it's kind of right there in your peripheral vision. It's kind of like I saw a number of vehicles during the pandemic that had the masks kind of hanging off the center mirror. And then, of course, there was the old days where you used to hang garters off the center mirror. So I don't recommend that you hang stuff off the center mirror because it can tend to be a bit distracting when you're driving. So yeah, try not to do that as well. Yeah. So what was the outcome of that, Z? The police officer pulled you over. Did he or she give you a speeding ticket or a ticket not paying attention to your driving and whatnot? Lynn said, I had a student who was acting goofy. How do you approach a situation where you might think that your student might be on something? I didn't want to be accusatory, but I was really torn. Yeah, that's a tough one, Lynn, because you don't really know what's going on. And oftentimes some students are not forthcoming with learning challenges that he or she has. And I had a student some years ago that had, we don't call it dyslexia anymore, but it was dyslexia, and they were getting all the numbers mixed up because this was commercial vehicles and the air brakes. And I said to them, I said, you know, you've got all the numbers right, but I said they're not for the right things. I said, is there something you're not telling me? I said, you have a learning challenge or something? And they said, oh yeah, I have that. Now, the other thing you could do potentially, Lynn, is you could just say to the student, listen, I have to cancel today. Sorry about that. Sorry about the short notice or whatnot. But I don't know. Let me think about that, Lynn, and just remind me and see what I can come up with here while we're working through this. David says the worst thing to do when pulled over is to argue, swear, yell, scream, complain. Yes, and have an attitude of get a ticket. You're talking your way into a ticket by doing that. Absolutely. Michael, we can get a Canadian version of this. Yes, you can, for sure. Elevator, never been pulled over by police. Elevator, you're doing really well if you haven't been pulled over by police. I have, for sure. Colton, how about being caught for reckless driving when you're guilty of tax evasion? Yeah, Colton, I wouldn't suggest you do that. Like I said, criminals often get caught because they don't pay attention to the details and they get pulled over by police for something innocuous, which means something that's not very important. And the police do a little bit of digging and they find out that something else is going on. Jake, I can't stand dyslexia going through the terminal looking for a trailer, 6 digits when I jumble them up. That trailer is also there. Awesome. Jake, there's another funny story trying to look for a trailer and a tractor number. I rented a tractor today and we were looking for the tractor number and it was hidden in behind a 5-ton. We didn't find it and then I had to go back and look again walking through the yard. I understand your struggle, Jake, because when I drove truck, I drove for a personnel agency and oftentimes the driver wouldn't show up. They'd call me and they'd say, there's a load going to Chicago tomorrow. Here's the truck number. Here's the trailer number. Here's the address. Here's where you'll find the paperwork. Can you do that? And I'd be like, yeah, sure, whatever. And you're out in the dark with a flashlight trying to find a truck and trailer. The door, second door down on the left, and go in there, and there's a set of lockers, and locker number 16. Yeah, it was very, very exciting. Colton said, I just mentioned that as an example. Yeah, but that's, pay attention to your details. But I'm not, as I said, I'm not encouraging illegal activity. Amazon, while ago, my uncle got pulled over once in the middle of a trip to California for going a bit over the speed limit on 55. He was driving us from New York to California. Yeah, and that happened. Amazon, do you remember if the officer issued a ticket for that? Lynn, I tell all my students that if they get into an accident to always call the police. Without documentation, they would have a tough time with fault, as he said. She said, yes, absolutely. Lynn, I don't know where you are, but where you are, if they have accident reporting centers, we have those here where I live. And if it's less than $5,000 damage, or there hasn't been an ambulance called, there aren't any injuries or fatalities, then what they tell you to do is take information from both parties, and the next day go to the accident reporting center. I don't know whether you have those where you live or not. Okay. Oh, New Jersey. So, okay. Thanks, Lynn. So yeah, I don't know whether you have accident reporting centers there or not. They might have those, because oftentimes if it's a minor crash, calling the police is simply going to annoy the police because they're very busy. So yeah, and it's usually, most of the time I would have to check specifically for New Jersey for you, Lynn, but oftentimes it's more than $5,000 in damage, and an ambulance has been called, there's been injuries or fatalities, and they've had to been taken to the hospital before police are called. Okay, you don't think that you have accident reporting centers there, so it might be a little bit different. Colton says, New Jersey, one of 2 states where pumping gas yourself is illegal. Yes, I have heard that before. It's an interesting thing. Amazon, yes, they issued a ticket for speeding. Well, that is unfortunate, Amazon, because generally when you're on road trips and you get a speeding ticket, you simply have to pay it. You can't fight it. And 2 years ago, when I drove to Ontario from British Columbia, which is 4,000 kilometers, I got a speed camera ticket, and as it said on the ticket, if I paid the fine, there wouldn't be any points assigned to my license, and there wouldn't be any repercussions for my insurance, because when you get a speeding ticket or you have a traffic violation, it's reported to your insurance, and oftentimes it costs you more money on your insurance because you get dinged for a traffic violation. So yeah, that's generally what happens. Now, the other, Lynn says, I like that. Jersey girls don't pump gas. Awesome. That's okay, Lynn. Tracy, my girlfriend, she doesn't pump gas either. She goes to the places where it's full serve, or I go and do it for her. David, hello, my friend. And Mallory says, make sure that all your paperwork is in order. Yes, make sure that you have your license and registration on you. It does work if you do know your license number. I had that happen some years ago. I got pulled over for speeding through a small village. Pulled over. I didn't have my license on me for whatever reason, but I did know the license number, and I gave it to the police officer, and that was enough to issue me the speeding ticket. So, yeah. So carry your license all the time. Have it in the vehicle with you. Elevator, the tolls on the Chicago Skyway are very expensive for trucks, especially with trailers. And yes, they are. Tolls are expensive for semi-trucks. Not to mention the cost of diesel fuel is expensive for semi-trucks. David, by acting belligerent, the officer will note that in the report, and prosecutors or judges aren't willing to cut a break either when they see that on the report. Yes, absolutely. And it's going to be known, and it's going to go up the chain of command, because keep in mind that judges, prosecutors, police officers, supervisors, they're going to stick together. And if you're belligerent, it's probably not going to be the case that you're going to get a fair hearing in court. Now, the other piece that you can do, and this may work in your state or where you live in your province. When I was in the province of Ontario, I got a speeding ticket some years ago. Now, you have to understand, when you put all these together, it sounds like I'm a terrible driver, but I'm really not. Haven't had a speeding ticket in years. Touch wood. Touch wood. I did get a speeding ticket in the province of Ontario. There we have paralegals, and the paralegals will go to court for you. And I basically approached the paralegal. I said, listen, I don't want the points because I was driving truck at the time. I didn't want the points. I didn't want it on my abstract. I said, I simply want to pay the ticket and not have the points assigned to my license. And that's, the paralegal said, yeah, no issues. So I hired the paralegal, cost me a couple $100 plus the cost of the ticket, went to court for me, didn't have to pay, I had to pay the fine, which was I think $175, and then I didn't have any points assigned on my license, so it didn't affect my insurance or affect my driver's abstract as a commercial driver. So Elevator says there are speed cameras in Chicago, yes, and there are speed cameras in Alberta and other places, and no, that if you get a Garmin dash cam, it will warn you of red light cameras. And pay attention to the camera telling you that there are red light cameras and speed cameras, because they are there. Jake, I still likely not allowed back on the GW bridge after what I said that when that poor toll taker told me how much the toll was. I'm sure it's... how much was it, Jake? Was it like $55? I heard it was somewhere $50, $100 on the George Washington Bridge now. It's just a lot more than what it was when I was driving in the 1990s. It was only like $22. Fitness. It's best to have everything up to date, current license and license plate sticker, all that. Yes, it is, for sure. Absolutely. Make sure that you have valid insurance and those types of things, because the fine for not having insurance, valid insurance on your vehicle, is considerable. I think it's $2,000 to $5,000. It's an incredible fine. So know that. Lynn says, I'm used to it. Oddly enough, our prices are cheaper than Pennsylvania and surrounding states, even though they pump fuel for you. Interesting. Colton, fuel and tolls are expensive for semis, and on top of that, you have to pay diesel exhaust fluid. Yes, you have to buy DEF fluid. The EPA can shut their mouths for all I care. Give me catalytic converters, or don't give me the truck. Okay. And not only that, Colton, semi-trucks, trucking companies, they pay a fuel surtax depending on how many miles they drive in the state. So if you're driving interstate trucks, for example, when I was driving in the 1990s, to be driving in the province of Ontario, you had to record how many miles you drove in that state because you had to pay taxes according to how many miles you drove through that state. So there is a lot of money that's involved in trucking companies, far beyond just putting fuel on it in the cost of the truck and the driver. There's a lot more expenses beyond that. It costs $6.60 each way for vehicles with 2 axles to take the Chicago Skyway. That's not too bad. Lynn, I used to it. Okay, we talked about that one. Awesome. 27. It's so weird not being allowed to pump your own gas. I can see having someone else pump your gas as an option, but not as your only choice. We have a lot of places here where not pumping your own gas is an option. We have a few co-ops here that will pump your gas and whatnot. Yeah, it's for those of us who grew up with self-serve. It's a little weird when somebody comes out and offers to pump your fuel for you. So, Jake says $115 cash, and dadgummed IFTA. Sometimes e-logs come in handy. $115 cash to go across the George Washington Bridge. Yeah, that's a lot of money. A lot of money. It's gone up considerably, Jake. When I drove truck in the 1990s, it was only $25. It was about running up and down the eastern seaboard when I used to run through New Jersey, across Staten Island, the Verrazano Bridge, the GW Bridge. It was only about $110, $120 a week when I was running up and down through there. Now you're saying it's $115 just to go across the George Washington Bridge into Manhattan. Crazy. David, sometimes police might give a ticket but give a break on the speed to people who were honest and own up to it, and that is true. We have racing speeds here in Canada, and if you go 40 kilometers an hour above the posted speed limit, so for example, the posted speed limit is 80 kilometers an hour, and you're doing 120 kilometers an hour or more, it's considered reckless and dangerous driving, and they can impound your vehicle, and the fine is incredible. So a lot of police officers will knock the speed down so it's under that 40 kilometers an hour, so they won't tow your vehicle and won't charge you with reckless and dangerous driving. So yes, if you're nice to police and you're doing something really goofy and it could potentially be a huge fine, yes, they will be nice and use their discretion, and they will knock down the amount that is going on the ticket. Sergio, hello, new driver here. I have to drive every day from Calgary, South Calgary to North Calgary. I take Deerfoot Trail, but I kind of annoyed that people exceed the speed limit. In the morning, people go 120 kilometers an hour. Sergio, that is part and parcel of social driving. That is not something you're going to fix, my friend. Everybody speeds. Everybody keeps up with traffic flow. So just, hang out in the middle lane, do what you need to do, drive the speed that you want to drive. If you want to drive the posted speed limit, then I would recommend that you drive in the right-hand lane, stay in that lane, and keep yourself safe. Sergio, what kind? I do not get a ticket in the highway if everyone is breaking the law. Yes. Okay, and that's an excellent point, Sergio. Thanks for bringing that up. Now, if the posted speed limit is 100 kilometers an hour, people are going to be doing 110, 120 kilometers an hour. They're going to be keeping up with traffic flow for the most part. As long as you're doing within 10 kilometers an hour, for those of you in the States, if you're within 5 miles an hour of the posted speed limit, it's unlikely that you're going to get pulled over and get issued a ticket. Radar guns that the police use to measure your speed have a tolerance of 3 miles an hour, more or less. They know that. So unless you're going 5 miles an hour more over the speed limit, they're not going to issue you a speeding ticket for the most part. Okay? So know that there is a tolerance. And as was said here, police officers will knock down the amount of speed so that your ticket isn't as bad as it would initially be. If police went out and they just started hammering everybody for every driving infraction, we would have some very, very angry people driving up and down our roads. Z, I passed the yellow light. I didn't get a ticket, but he stopped me. Because I was hanging in the chain. Z, that's probably what happened. He probably thought you were distracted in the vehicle as you were moving through the intersection. Lynn, how many kilometers is, say, a 60 mile an hour speed? Lynn, 60 miles an hour is 102 kilometers an hour. So if you want to figure it out, 1.62 times 1.62 times whatever miles per hour it is, or divided. So there you go. Elevator, I have seen stories about vehicles getting pulled over for hanging out in the left lane. Left lane squatters, yes, and they should be, because it's annoying when they just sit there and don't pass. All right, so Lynn, basically for kilometers an hour, 50 kilometers an hour is 30 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour is 70 kilometers an hour, and 100 kilometers an hour is 62 miles an hour, if that kind of helps you out there. Mallory, several years ago, while I was traveling on a school bus back from the city of Halifax, we got passed by someone who was an insurance person. How did you know that they were an insurance person? Or were they driving a van, Mallory? Is that what they were doing? Colton, I'd rather race Chris Magletto than drive under the George Washington Bridge. I'll tell you a funny story about the George Washington Bridge. When I first started driving into New York City, and I'm going down Broadway delivering office furniture, and of course this is in the days before GPS, and I was talking to one of the other drivers, and I said, "Oh, okay, how do I get into Manhattan once I get across the George Washington Bridge?" They said, "It's easy. You just get off at the first exit. It'll take you right out to Broadway, and you get on Broadway, and you just head south on Broadway to wherever you're going in Manhattan." And so come across the George Washington Bridge, didn't get off on Broadway. Twice this happened, and I talked to the driver again. He says, "Yeah, you can't miss it." He said, "It's the first exit." The third time, I'm coming across the George Washington Bridge in the semi-truck, and of course, you're not going to do that swastika lane change thing, where some drivers do that. And I realized that the first exit that the other driver was talking about wasn't even off the bridge. The first exit to get off the George Washington Bridge to go on to Broadway is still on the bridge. So it took me the three tries coming across the George Washington Bridge before I found that exit, which took me into Manhattan and got me onto Broadway there. Tyler, had a cop pulled behind me. I moved over, pulled over the guy in front of me. There you go. Awesome day, Tyler. But, you did get the adrenaline rush, that's for sure. Funny, hello, my friend. And my friend Big Mac Sam is here. Hello, Big Mac Sam. He can tell you all kinds of driving stories about driving in the Bronx. And tonight we're talking about being pulled over by police officers for speeding and other traffic infractions. And if you are going for a driver's test, pass your driver's test first time is available over at the Smart Drive Test website. Guaranteed to pass your driver's test as well. We throw in as a bonus both the Smarter Defensive Driving and the Winter Driving Smart courses. About $38. You can pick that up over at the Smart Drive Test website. It is on sale. Sam, yes, awesome, my friend, that you can join us tonight. Yes, there you go. And so on that note of lane changes, merges, those types of things, I had another comment from a smart driver this week who was talking about the fact that they drive coaches and they do not move over for people merging out onto the roadway, and that they shouldn't have to slow down. Now, I want to clarify that when I say slow down, I'm not saying using the brakes. That's not what I mean, okay? You only need to slow down about 3 kilometers an hour, 3 miles an hour when you're on the interstate. That simply means just canceling the cruise or taking your foot off the gas pedal to let the person come out on the merge lane. Because if the person on the merge lane is doing what he or she should be doing, which is getting their foot in and trying to get the car up to speed as quickly as possible, if you're coming up and you can see the on-ramp and you can see the car coming out and you just let your foot off the throttle a little bit or cancel your cruise control, they're going to zoom out and get in front of you, okay? Now, again, this doesn't happen very often. Most of the time on interstates and freeways, people merge properly. They do it right. They get their foot into it. They get going, and you don't even have to do anything. You don't have to slow down. You don't have to move over to the lane or those types of things. And also, it's a situation that doesn't manifest itself very often. It's kind of like getting in bumper-to-bumper traffic, making left-hand turns at congested intersections. It doesn't happen very often. So there isn't very often that you have to push your way through the intersection on the yellow light. It's the same thing being on an interstate or being on a freeway and cars are coming out and you need to slow down a little bit or you need to move over to the left lane. It doesn't happen very often. When I'm driving in interstates and freeways, it's seldom that these traffic situations manifest themselves. And this is the interesting thing about traffic is that not everything happens all the time, but we have huge debates about it, about things that might happen, right? Remember the saying of life. I love Mark Twain's saying about life. I've lived through some terrible things in my life. Some of them actually happened. And driving is like that. And the people that leave comments on the YouTube channel and get excited about things in driving, it might happen. And it doesn't happen very often. So know that when people are merging out onto the highway or freeway, those types of things, be nice. If you can, just let off the throttle a little bit. They'll accelerate and they'll come out onto the freeway and everybody will be still alive at the end of the day. Colton, I've seen people who were going 40 miles an hour in a 60 mile an hour zone, right pedal down. Yes, they do that. People speed, people drive too slow. We have one of the major roads through town here. It's called 27th Avenue. We actually call it 27 kilometers an hour, whereas the speed limit is actually 50 kilometers an hour. They can't even do the speed limit, which just is frustrating. Sam, I interviewed a police officer 3 times. Interesting videos. He talked about what he looks for in bad drivers. What was one of the things he looked for in bad drivers, Sam? David, tolls have increased everywhere for the past years. Tolls aren't cheap today, whether that's a toll tunnel, bridge, or a tolled highway like a turnpike. No, they're not, David, from what I gather here with the discussion we were having about going across the GW Bridge, the Chicago Skyway, and other places. Yeah, it's expensive for sure. Lynn, I tell all my students about your site. You have made me a better teacher and a better driver, so thank you very much. Lynn, thank you for your kind words. You're absolutely awesome, my friend. I'm so glad that we can help out. That's really great. And let me know, Lynn, as well, if you have any videos you want me to do or any topics you want me to cover. It can always definitely help you out for sure. Mallory, somebody else on the bus told me that it was an insurance person, plus they had a sign on their vehicle. I do believe. Awesome. So, merging. We're going to continue to have this debate about merging. And the other piece about it is that the other point that the smart driver said about driving coaches is that passenger safety, passenger comfort is the most important priority in their life. And yes, it is. It absolutely is. I don't disagree. I drove coaches, and passenger comfort, passenger safety is the most important thing. And, if you can move over to the left-hand side. But again, if you're just letting off the throttle or you're just canceling cruise control, you're not really altering your speed that much. You're just letting off a little bit to let the other person get back in. And it comes back to what we were saying about you can be right or you can be dead right. Are you going to risk a crash just because you can let off the throttle a little bit? No, don't do that, okay? Simply let off the throttle, let the other person get in front of you and the other person to merge. And yes, the onus of responsibility for merging correctly is on the merging vehicle. Know that. When you get out on the on-ramp, you are committed. It is like a jet taking off on a airstrip, okay? Once they throttle up and they get going, that jet is committed. It's the same thing with you on the on-ramp and on the acceleration lane. Once you get going, you are committed. Get it going. Elevator, is it illegal to flash your headlights at slowpokes to tell them to get out of the way? Elevator, it's not. Not that I'm aware of. Is it illegal for you to do that, to flash your lights to tell these goofy people to get out of the left lane so you can pass? I have been guilty of that myself, telling people to get out of the left-hand lane, honking at them because they just get up beside another person and they sit there. And here's a perfect example of this. A few weeks ago, I'm on the highway. It's a multi-lane highway. There's a police officer on the side of the road pulling somebody over. They're stopped, issuing, ticket or whatever they were doing. So I look in the mirror. I see this other car coming. And then I see the police officer, so I start slowing down, waiting for this other person to pass me so I can get over into the left-hand lane to move over and give room for the police officer on the side of the road. What is the goofball sits in my blind spot and slows down with me and tracks me down the highway so I can't move over. This is not awareness. Okay, if you come up and you're passing me and then you see the cop over there, it's like speed up so you can get past me and then slow down and let that person over. Don't sit beside me in my blind spot so I can't move over. And, because I shoulder check on the highway every time. So I shoulder check and like the person sitting there, I'm slowing down. I'm waiting for them to go past me. And they're still sitting there. They're slowing down with me. And I'm not sure what the magnetic force is in our world. And I think this is part of the problem with driving is that there is this, they got to stop building cars with these magnets in them, because what happens is people drive down the road and somebody goes to pass and they get right beside you and the magnets hold the two cars together like this and they can't get past each other. I think that's the problem. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I'm thinking. I think there's magnets in cars that cause when we're going, oh, we can't get past. We can't get past that magnet. That's my bad joke for the night. Sam, one of them was stopping completely at the stop signs. So you had a police officer that was pulling people over for not stopping completely at stop sign intersections. Okay, that's a new one on me. I can't say that I know a lot of police officers that are pulling people drivers over, because 98% of people don't come to a complete stop at a stop sign intersection. Interesting. Elevator. Okay, we answered that one. Colton, here's a topic for you, Rick. Proper procedure for changing a tire on the side of the road. I think Corey, there is a video for that. Corey will put that up for you. Have a look at that. I'm about to upload my new video tonight. I spotted the Ghostbuster car in a Target parking lot. That's awesome. That's awesome, my friend Sam. Ecto 1. Yes, Colton says Ecto 1. That's what you found there. Aaron, Okay, so we figured out why people don't pass when they're on the highway interstates. It's the magnets in the car. Okay, now we're going to talk about that and how to get rid of those magnets so you can actually get past the other vehicles. I think they figured out how to do that in Germany. So, Corey's put up the video on how to change a flat tire. And we've talked about this before in terms of vehicle maintenance. If you don't know how to boost a battery, you don't know how to fill the radiator fluid, you don't know how to change a tire on your car, getting a AAA membership, the Automobile Association of America, there's lots of these out there, different places. The CAA in Canada, the Canadian Automobile Association, it's only about $110 a year for roadside assistance to call these people and get them to come out and change a tire in your vehicle. Now, if you're inclined to learn how to do that, it's really not that hard. You got to find the jack. All of this information is in the vehicle's owner's manual. Find the jack the vehicle up, make sure it's safe, make sure you have the parking brake on, and make sure it's on a level surface. Jack the vehicle, or loosen the lug nuts before you jack the vehicle, before you elevate the vehicle. Loosen the lug nuts, and then remove the lug nuts, pull the wheel off, put the spare tire back on, throw the old tire, the one that's flat, in the vehicle somewhere in the trunk or the back of the vehicle, and then put all the lugs on, tighten them as much as you can while the vehicle's still on the jack, and then lower the jack and then tighten them up even more when you're down, and then you can drive to a shop and get the tire repaired. Funny girl, sometimes I have to tell my hubby that he didn't stop completely at a stop sign. How does that go when you tell your hubby that he didn't stop completely at the stop sign intersection? Because guilty as charged. Colton says a lot of manuals anymore say see your dealer on almost every page. Interesting. I'll have to find one of those, Colton, for sure, and have a look at that. Jake, and even in those areas where vehicles are required to move over for disabled vehicles, it never hurts to call the Auto Association or law enforcement to provide traffic blocking. Yes, because lots going on there. And even the auto wreckers, or the tow trucks rather, not auto wreckers, tow trucks, I've seen of late pulling a vehicle off the side of the road or pulling them out of the ditch or those types of things. They're now working in pairs where one tow truck is working as the blocker and the other tow truck is pulling the vehicle out of the ditch or doing whatever it needs to do, boosting the car or whatnot if it's on the side of the highway. Just trying to keep everybody safe, because for whatever reason, drivers are not paying the attention that they need to in their driving. They're too close to the vehicle in front of them. They're doing something else, listening to the radio, texting on their phone or whatnot. So very much in driving, I love people. I trust people. I just don't trust them a whole lot when they're behind the wheel of a car. David, most police officers don't bother too much with people going 5 over the speed limit unless you're doing other stuff that sticks out, like other erratic stuff and traffic flow is slower that day. You're absolutely right. If you're 5 miles an hour above the posted speed limit, most of the time police are not going to pull you over unless you're doing something else. You're erratic, your vehicle is wandering in its lane, you're speeding up, you're slowing down, you're speeding up, you're slowing down, those types of things. So, you keep up with traffic flow. As long as you're not sticking out, you're not weaving in and out of traffic and doing all kinds of crazy erratic things or maneuvers that are dangerous when you're driving, you're going to be pretty safe when you're going up and down the roadways. Excellent. So going back to merging, some merge lanes in the United States have yield signs on them. The yield sign is simply to indicate to you that the onus of merging is on the merging driving. Now, there are parkways, there are other older interstates and freeways in the United States and in Canada that have no acceleration lane. It's simply the on-ramp comes out onto the parkway, and those places you do, in fact, have to stop and wait for a gap in traffic before you can merge out onto the parkway or onto the interstate. These are common in New York State that they have parkways. And parkways in the United States are interesting, because we park cars in laneways, but we drive on parkways. So figure that one out. That's your little puzzle for the evening. But those you don't merge, okay? There's no acceleration lane. And if there is a short lane, you're going to have to go out. You're going to have to get up to speed as quickly as possible. Pedal to the metal kind of thing. Put the accelerator right on the floor and get the vehicle going as fast as you can. Onus of responsibility is on the merging driver. If the traffic on the highway can help you out, if they can move over to the left or slow down a little bit, they will do that. They will try and help you out. But for the most part, it's up to you, the merging driver, to keep yourself safe. David, officers are less lenient with speed in residential neighborhoods or school speed zones. And David, you are absolutely right. You speed in a school zone, there's a reason that it's an automatic fail on a driver's test. And if police catch you, they will indeed give you a speeding ticket. Very little tolerance for speeding in a school zone. Mallory says, I have an idea for a video of how to drive safely in and out of a booth that you pay a toll. Excellent. And I would have to find one of those because, well, actually, I'm on that topic. Thank you for reminding me that, Mallory. I am going to the Eastern Seaboard next week, and so there won't be a live stream next week. I'm going to have to cancel that because I'll be away. And I may be able to do a video short for you on paying a toll because I'm going to be in Delaware, Wilmington, Delaware. And I may be able to do that for you. Thank you for that, Mallory. Colton, the parking on driveways and driving on parkways has been bothering me for years. It's going to continue to bother you, Colton, because it's one of those conundrums that we perseverate about through our lives. Kino, should I be nervous about my driver's test coming up on Friday? No, remember to breathe. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Bring your money, bring your driver's license identification for your driver's test. And remember, the only thing that you have to do is take away the driving examiner's right to fail you. Nothing less, nothing more. That's all you need to do. David, I've seen stop sign ramps before when merging due to lack of acceleration lane. Other than that, though, it's never safe to stop on the on-ramp or acceleration lane. And David, I couldn't agree with you more. Don't stop on acceleration lanes, on ramps, unless it is like super short and like one of those parkways. Otherwise, get your foot into it, get it up to speed, match the speed of the traffic on the highway or interstate, and get it going, okay? As I said, it's like an airplane taking off on a runway. Once they throttle up, there's no aborting because it is just too dangerous. And as well as if there's traffic behind you, they're expecting you to get it going as well. Jake, Pennsylvania just went to electronic tolling. If you stop an electronic tolling lane, you will be air horned. I suspect you will. And I think that's more and more going to be the norm, Jake, as we move here into the future, that it's going to be electronic tolling. And I'm trying to think if I-90 through New York was an electronic toll. And I believe it was, but I think it was a little more complicated than that. I think you had to have a sticker or something on your truck to be going up and down that toll road. But more and more of these, because, you know, it costs money to have staff. And all of the toll roads through New York City were all electronic tolls. And they just added them to my rental car when I was down there. So that's the other piece about it. Colton, if you're rearranging cars at a dealership, aren't you doing the job a valet does at Holdtails? Yes, I believe you are. You're a glorified valet working at the dealership there. So that's all happening, and it's been just an awesome live stream. And again, I just remind you, there will not be a live stream next week because I'm away. But 2 weeks we'll have another live stream, and we'll talk to you in the comments. For those of you watching on the replay, those of you hanging around tonight, thank you so much for all your questions. Great participation. If you have a question, leave a comment down in the questions there. Hit the thumbs up button. You passed your driver's test in the last couple of weeks. Congratulations on passing your driver's test. Awesome news. And if you have a test coming up in the next week or so, good luck on that. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. Bye now.